Welcome back to the Go podcast, man. Episode 82. NFL free agency still going on. T-minus just less than a month right now until the NBA play-in tournament starts, man, and the playoffs start heating up. Coming down to the final stretch of the NBA season, man. We're going to talk NFL free agency, NBA playoff scenarios, specifically the play-in to start. Should be a good one right now, especially in the West, if you've been seeing it, man. We're going to kick it off, though. NFL free agency. Some big names still going on. Covered it a little bit last week. Got the start of free agency. Now we're going to continue. I think some big news is the Justin Fields trade over there in Pittsburgh for just a 6th-round pick right now. If he plays 51% of the snaps, they do get a 4th-round pick. Your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that pretty much solidifies the Chicago Bears taking Caleb at number 1, or going quarterback. I definitely think it's going to be Caleb. But for Justin Fields, I think this is probably the best opportunity he had to go compete for a starting job, because it was getting to look to the point where maybe he takes a year or two off, becomes like a backup quarterback, sits behind one of these starting quarterbacks, kind of similar to, the Mac Jones deal. He's down there in Jacksonville. He's going to be sitting behind Trevor Lawrence. So maybe you see Fields take that route. But I think he chose Pittsburgh. And apparently the Bears were, willing to work with him, willing to make sure he goes to where he preferred. So if this is what he wanted to do, I think he sees Pittsburgh as not only a place to not really sit and develop, but I think he sees himself being able to start and compete for that starting job against Russell Wilson, who, we've talked about him a bunch. He's a solid starting quarterback at this point in his career. Not much upside there anymore, to whereas Justin Fields had his up and downs, a little on the low end in terms of a starter now, but has that potential, has that elite athletic ability. Maybe that ceiling's a little higher now. So I think the Steelers they just wanted the best of both worlds at this point to see what's best for their organization. Because if Justin Fields hits and that upside shows to be true, then you have a solid starting quarterback. Russell Wilson, if he ends up being the guy, you have a veteran, he has that experience. It'll be slow and steady, and you kind of know what you're getting at this point. So, I mean, if I'm Justin Fields, probably not the route I would have taken, but I definitely understand, betting on himself, betting on the chance to go in and compete and try to win that opening job. Plus, we all know in that division, Russ is probably going to be on a short leash. So they go on a 2-3 game losing streak, all that buzz, especially in that division against those tough opponents. They're going to be playing some great defenses in the AFC. So Fields will probably get an opportunity to get on the field early, even if he isn't the starter, if Russ isn't playing up to par. So I just think Justin Fields saw this as the best opportunity for him to get on the field. Maybe not the best opportunity to learn and develop and become a better quarterback over time, but just the best opportunity to get on the field, to play, to try to improve his, perception around the league at this point in terms of putting film out there and being on the field. So, I mean, I understand from Justin Fields' standpoint.
I think it's kind of like, I think he gets a little bit of both worlds in a sense. He does get the opportunity to go out and play. You do have Russell Wilson, regardless if he isn't the season's opening starter. You still got a Super Bowl winning quarterback at the helm, a veteran who's been in the league a very, very long time. You get to learn a couple things from him, but you also surround yourself with an actual team, something that he really never had in Chicago. I think that's what he wanted. He's getting an elite defense. He's got weapons on the outside. And George Pickens, Pat Fryermuth, they got a running back. So I think he's kind of setting himself up in a little bit of both situation, and he knows Russell Wilson's a little bit shaky, 1-year deal right now. They said they might try to extend him. Haven't seen that yet, but I do think it. As a Browns fan, I was kind of mad that you only gave up a 6th-round pick for Justin Fields, and I get it, the Browns signed Jameis Winston, but if you told me Justin Fields for a 6th-round pick, I would have made it happen. I'm pretty sure any NFL GM, that might need a backup quarterback could have pulled that trigger. So
Yeah, and the reason I say is he did that in terms of getting on the field soon. I don't think he is going to Pittsburgh and looking to, kind of develop. There's a lot of better options out there in terms of
Mm-hmm.
developing for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like I know you sitting behind Russ. Like theoretically, yes, he does have experience and stuff like that. But from all the reports the last couple of seasons, like we know, Russ isn't the greatest teammate. Multiple teammates have come out, said some things about Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, guys from the Legion of Boom. So like, is Russell Wilson really going to be that guy to sit there and kind of, take Justin Fields under his wing? And if you Justin Fields, like you saw how Russ played these last 2 seasons, is that a guy you would want to be under the wing of? And then you got to look at the structure, scheme wise and stuff like that. You have Arthur Smith, who's coming off questionable what he did, head coach tenure with the Falcons, but has had success. We talked about down there in Tennessee as an offensive coordinator. But if I'm Justin Fields, I'm looking at the Sam Darnold, like what he did. Went to the Panthers, pretty much lost the game against the Bucs end of the season, was the reason they missed the playoffs, where they pretty much had that game won, and Sam Darnold just didn't play well at all. Goes to San Fran for a year, sits in that Shanahan system where, once again, you want to talk about developing. That system has proven, shown success of taking guys with lesser talent and producing them and putting them on the field. You look at Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, Jimmy Garoppolo, another limited guy. CJ Beathard had some success. Nick Mullins had his little, Linsanity run. So these are guys who did not have high draft stock at all. Wasn't the most talented, but seemed to develop. The only one you could kind of say was maybe Trey Lance, who was more comparable to Justin Fields. But if you look at everyone else, especially the Sam Darnold, and then Sam Darnold, gets a 1 year, $10 million deal. He goes to Minnesota. Well, Minnesota's off of that same branch, that same tree. Shanahan and McVay, Kevin O'Connell was with those guys. So it's going to be, around that same system. So if I'm Justin Field, I'll look around like that's the hot commodity. Like those are the hot coordinators, the hot coaches, people in that system. Everyone talks about why they like Kirk Cousins so much because he's the perfect prototype quarterback for that system. So if you're not Patrick Mahomes and what him and Andy Reid are doing, are kind of like you can't compare that to anything else. You look at what's having success around the league, those guys, that scheme. Maybe he would have went to one of those teams, rehab, get some solid film out there. Maybe a game or two, a quarterback goes down, he comes in limited action, or during the preseason looks good, and then next season, guys look, oh, we still want to bet on that upside. He was in this system. Guys are saying he looked better instead of, oh, the last season he just came off of in Chicago wasn't really the best. Now he's only going for a 6th-round pick, where next season he hits free agency. Maybe his market is a little bigger. He has a little more upside, more of the unknown commodity, It's like the last situation he was in was positive, got good coaching. We know he was coached well. Ask around the league, maybe some of those guys speak. Yeah, he was really good. He showed improvement instead of, the last situation he just came from. Chicago, couldn't really start, wasn't really looking good. Now he's, a backup quarterback or competing for a starting job. Whereas if he would have took that time off, sat that year off, developed, learned the game more, worked on his game, that's playing for more than the long run. But like I said, I can't fault Justin Fields for betting on himself, betting on the upside. If he's a player, feels like he's better than Russell Wilson, he feels like he can go out there and compete and be the starting quarterback for the Steelers. Like, sure, if you think you can do that, go ahead, like by all means. But if you wanted to take the longer route, maybe the safer route, so to speak, I feel like, trying to get in one of those really good systems that have been known to develop quarterbacks would be a lot better for your long-term career instead of what seems to be like the kind of boomer bust deal. Because if he goes to Pittsburgh and it doesn't work out and he looks just as bad, like he might be out of the league type. Like maybe he's on vet minimum deals the rest of his career, like minimum, a career backup, like no really starter upside. So I totally get it. Boomer bust. He's gambling, playing for the big bag. I can't hate it. It's like if you believe in your abilities, go ahead, try and reach the high highs. But you could also see, the safety and maybe the longevity and extending your career and getting those kind of backup and those spot starts in terms of trying to develop. So, like I said, the Steelers are right now regardless, I think definitely still have some question marks at quarterback because both of these guys are on 1-year deals. So still some questions there, but ultimately you can't fault a man betting on himself, betting on the upside. So I don't hate what Justin Fields did.
And going from, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and whatever company, Mitch Trubisky, like those guys found a way to get into the playoffs. So for Justin Fields, like I said earlier, this is the best team he's ever been on around him. So it's not a bad place to kind of like double down and you go chase that boomer bust deal, like you mentioned. Big news coming out of Cowboys camp. I mean, probably the biggest news. Leighton Vander Esch went ahead and retired, a longtime Cowboy. I think they did Tyron Smith went to the Jets on a 1-year deal. They pick up a tackle for A-Rod. Stays healthy. I mean, one of the best elite tackles in the NFL. Just never seemed to get over that injury hump over there. And if I say any one of these and you want to stop, I think this one, the Chargers trading Keenan Allen to the Bears, pairing with DJ Moore for just a 4th-round pick after Keenan Allen refused to restructure coming off his best year, in his words. Why would he restructure? He goes to the Bears. You mentioned Caleb time over there in Chicago. You got Keenan, DJ Moore, and now you're drafting 101, and you're going for Caleb Williams to pair your franchise quarterback with 2 elite weapons on the outside.
Yeah, and then you also add DeAndre Swift in that backfield, Joe Everett at tight end. So the Bears are definitely looking to make life as easy as possible for Caleb Williams, or who knows, whatever they do. Presumably Caleb Williams.
I don't think there's who knows what they do.
Yeah, well, it hasn't happened yet. So,
yeah, I guess. But
we're all pretty sure it's going to be Caleb Williams. So, I mean, in terms of being a rookie quarterback, walking into the situation, let's just say it's a lot better than what Bryce Young walked into last year.
And it's a lot better than what Justin Fields walked into his rookie year in Chicago. So
it's even better than what CJ Stroud walked into when you saw how much success he had with the Texans team. So if Caleb Williams can, produce or be anywhere near that, this Chicago team had 7 wins last year, so they could definitely be competitive, because you got to think the number 1 pick was from Carolina. They're picking at number 9. That's their pick. So the Chicago Bears, they have a pretty decent, they got a bright future if things go the way they want, if things pan out and they hit on the right guys. So I'm not mad at it. I definitely like bringing in Keenan Allen and adding him to the receiving room with DJ Moore, too. Really, really good receivers. Only thing with Keenan Allen is he's a little expensive, and he's getting up there in age. He'll be 32, I think 31, 32 years old. Yeah. So once you get over that 30 hump for a receiver, you got to, like you mentioned, health comes the thing. Do they lose a step? Are they still as explosive? So that's a big thing. But, I mean, if it was anything like last year, he had arguably the best year of his season. So I don't hate on it. It can't be much worse than that, and it can't be much worse than what they had last year. So bringing in some guys who've proven, who know how to win in the league, who know how to, get open at a receiver position is only going to make things easier for Caleb Williams.
I was fully committed on that Darnell Mooney train at one point, I will say. Yeah. Clearly that didn't work out in Chicago.
Down in Atlanta right now, I think.
Yeah. Aaron Donald officially announced his retirement. I think for real this time he's done. Last time he retired after the Super Bowl. But I think this is it for AD, man. Hats off. Probably the best interior D lineman, if not just D lineman in general, kind of this generation at least.
Yeah, I don't think that's close. He's up there with the all times.
Oh yeah, easily all time great. 49ers signed Devontae Campbell. Your Eagles went ahead and they got that linebacker help you've been calling for all last season, man. And they went in Devin White, 1-year deal, getting a little up there, in terms of age, but solid linebacker, signal caller, a few years with the Bucks, man. I think it's a good pickup. I want to know your thoughts.
I think it's just more of a depth signing and kind of betting on the upside, because he's had a lot of success in Tampa early on in his career. That 2020 year when they won the Super Bowl, he was, a pivotal guy. But from what I'm seeing, he's taken some steps back as of recently. That's why kind of on that 1 year prove it deal at this point wasn't really that big of a market for him, unless you're Philadelphia, who's in desperate need of linebacker play. So, like I said, just kind of betting on that upside. Not the best in coverage or run defense, but a solid blitzer can play sideline to sideline, bring some speed, some juice to a secondary, or not even a secondary, but a defense in general that kind of seems to lack that. So it'd be nice to have an athlete out there. Just want to see him put it all together. Maybe playing around, because when he had his best season, he was playing super talented. Tampa Bay defense has some guys all around him that were really good. So maybe we see him kind of reach back to that level, playing with some solid players on that Philly defense. But got to just see guys put it together. And like I said, it's kind of an upside signing. Also, it's a 1 year deal, so if it doesn't work out, not attached. So I mean, I don't hate it, but we literally just had no linebackers on the roster, so we needed somebody there.
A body to
breathe.
Yeah.
So yeah, bringing in Devin White, kind of a bigger name splash signing, but ultimately seems like he's regressed a bit. So maybe we see him get back on track in Philly. I hope, but I mean, I don't think it's anything too crazy. It doesn't move the needle for me or anything, but like I said, nice to bring in. I think the biggest thing is just having an athlete there, somebody that can run, somebody that is fast, fly around, be around the ball. So I think that's the biggest thing they wanted. And you saw at the end of the season last year, it's like no one could keep up with anybody. No one looked fast. No one was flying around. No one looked like they were exploding off the ball, exploding to the ball, breaking on the ball. So I think that's also a big thing, just having athletes back there.
It's the same thing with Jerome Baker, former Dolphin, coming off his worst year in Miami, signed a 1 year deal with Seattle, kind of an prove-it deal to get back to, he was at one point, I think, he was up there with the highest paid linebackers when the Dolphins signed him a couple years ago. Which brings me to the Dolphins signing Kendall Fuller to a 2 year deal, man. They got Jalen Ramsey on the outside. That X contract was getting expensive, so he didn't want to restructure. They parted ways. They go out and get Kendall Fuller, who is a very solid corner, captain of that Washington Commanders defense. He's had some solid seasons. I like to pick up. He's the number 2 corner in the system, and I think that's a really good number 2. So they kind of keep those, upper talent corners on the Dolphins, kind of like they did last year with X and Jalen. Obviously, X losing a little bit of a step. But they keep the outside kind of on lockdown, add that extra corner that they really needed after that cut of Xavier Howard this offseason. So I like the signing, 2 year deal, get Kendall Fuller in, pair him up with Jalen Ramsey. It should be 2 elite corners on the outside.
I don't know about elite, but
he could be. He at one point he was an elite corner.
Yeah, I think he's past that now, but I think he can be a solid starting corner. I don't know about elite though.
We'll see. Curtis Samuel to the Bills, 3 year, $24 million. He gets out of Washington, had some buzz going around the past couple years. His connection with Sam Howell at the start of the year kind of got some buzz going. The Bills, they needed that replacement, that number 2 receiver. They lost Gabe Davis to the Jags in free agency. They bring in Curtis Samuel, who a little bit less of a deep threat than Gabe Davis, but over the middle, across the field, Curtis Samuel excels in. I think it's a good pickup for the Bills. They desperately, we always talk about outside of Diggs, and then maybe, Kincaid and Knox at tight end. Who's going to be a playmaker for the Bills? I think they found a decent signing in Curtis Samuel by doing so.
Yeah, I like that signing, especially for the Bills. And Curtis Samuel is someone who, you can get him involved multiple ways. A guy that has some experience at running back or, lining up in the backfield. But little jet sweeps, screens, you can get into him. And he's also has, he's very quick, explosive athlete. So he's going to be someone that can stretch the field. Not the same sense of Gabe Davis, who was, more of a vertical deep threat, but just speed-wise, stretching the field. Curtis Samuel. You got Josh Allen, who can throw, the entire football field. So having someone that can run and go get the ball that far definitely helps. And I think he just brings, a lot of juice because they were missing that. You mentioned Gabe Davis was a deep threat, but like I said, he was more of a vertical straight line running deep threat. You bring in Curtis Samuel. He's an explosive athlete, change direction, super shifty, can break tackles. So adds a lot of juice and some explosiveness to a receiving room. Who outside of Stephon Diggs, who's one of the best receivers in the league, looked like they were missing that explosiveness, that juice, that super athlete on the outside. And Curtis Samuel isn't like a true number one bona fide star receiver, but he's definitely someone that can come in and definitely help that Bills offense be more explosive. Him, Shakir, we don't know what they'll do in the draft, but it definitely seems like they're trending in the right direction in terms of getting some elite athletes, some playmakers out there on the outside. Kincaid showed a lot of promise, and he seems to be on the more athletic side for tight ends. Had a pretty solid rookie campaign. If it wasn't for Detroit tight end, what's his name? I forgot his name.
Laporta, yeah, Sam Laporta,
who had like a legendary rookie
all-time
year.
rookie
Yeah.
for a tight end. Yeah,
Yeah. Kincaid had a really solid rookie year as well. So yeah, I like the move in Buffalo, and their offense should be better.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, he's a guy you could throw 10 targets at, 9 catches a game. Over the middle, get those easy dink and dunk, is whereas Gabe Davis was 3 catches, 100 yards. Touchdown. That's the difference between the two. Obviously, you take away that vertical, but
as to the screen game,
yep.
like I mentioned, jet sweeps, quick slants, quick outs,
when
stuff like
really,
that. He could turn a bubble screen to a 20-30 yard game. He's an explosive player, so yeah.
And when you're really really struggling to move the ball, it's important to just get those little plays. And you mentioned turning those little plays into something. Maybe the Bills take a step back instead of running gun, just chuck it up. No, we say that all the time, but we'll see this year. We'll see. Commanders did sign veteran Bobby Wagner. Harrison Smith restructured to stay with the Vikings. Sheldon Rankins 2-year, 26 to the Bills. The Cowboys finally made a splash. Eric Kendrick. C.J. Mosley staying with the Jets. We don't have to watch Desmond Ridder in Atlanta anymore because they traded him for Rondell Moore, and he's now behind, Kyler Murray. Kind of questionable trade. I know Arizona really had no backups. I mean, since the whole, Kyler's been out for what? I mean, I think this is the second time missing a majority of the season. They had Josh Dobbs, his little Linsanity run and whatnot. But Ridder going to be able to sit back, maybe take a couple things from K1, maybe turn his career around to being a, serviceable quarterback in this league, because it really didn't look like, you would even want him anywhere near your roster, 1 or 2, maybe the third guy on the depth chart. But maybe he learns a thing or two over there. Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, your boy Jonathan Gannon's over there. We'll see if he's got, anything in the tank for Ridder. But not bad for the Falcons. They get Rondell Moore. They're able to move on from Ridder. You got your guy in Kirk. I think it was a win for the Falcons in that one.
Yeah, at that point, the Falcons are pretty much set offensively, bringing in a guy like Rondell Moore. Just like we mentioned, he's kind of like, in the same mold as a Curtis Samuel. Super shifty, super fast, quick twitch, one of those guys that, elite with the ball in his hands, screens, little short passes around the line of scrimmage, can stretch the field. So when you got guys already like Drake London, like Kyle Pitts, you mentioned Bijan out of the backfield, I think a player like Rondell Moore will fit them nicely. And you have someone like Kirk Cousins, who's definitely going to be able to get him the ball quick. So, yeah, and then Desmond Ridder, I think, kind of going the opposite of Justin Fields. And not saying he had anywhere near the ceiling as Fields, but, this might be kind of where Desmond Ridder is at this point in his career. More of a backup, like you mentioned, come in, have a couple starts here and there, but this feels like this is where Desmond Ridder belongs as a backup quarterback.
100%.
Come in, provide a couple of games or two, maybe play a stretch and kind of just hold the team steady while the starter is out, but I don't think he'll elevate much at this point in his career. But, yeah, I like this for the Falcons.
Sam Howell to the Seahawks. Texans. Yeah. Texans extend Joe Mixon 3 years, 27. I don't understand that at all. I think Mixon's quite literally hit his ceiling and it's actually on the regress. But we'll see about that one, man. Obviously, a lot of heat on the Jerry Jeudy deal that went down today, 3-year, $58 million for my Cleveland Browns. Look, man, March 19th, 2024. Don't be coming to me saying this, December, January, all that Watson, Amari, Jerry Jeudy, Nick Chubb, David Njoku. It's too overpowered. How did he get all these weapons, man? I don't want to hear DW4 is overpaid or whatnot. I'm just calling it right now, man. And I think the last big signing we got here is, Derrick Henry becoming a Baltimore Raven. Well, actually, before that, Mike Williams did sign with the Jets just before this.
Mm-hmm.
1 year, $15 million for A-Rod. I think that's a pretty good deal. Might as well. I don't know if you have any comments on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to health. If Mike Williams can stay healthy and if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, pairing Mike Williams with Garrett Wilson, I think two really nice receivers that complement each other. And when you talk about, having a big body jump ball, go up and get it, can win a contested catches like Mike Williams, I think he fits really well with Garrett Wilson, who is, more of a speedster, really good at route running, can create separation, can be used, underneath, vertically, more of a true route runner and separator as a receiver. Whereas Mike Williams, he's more of the physical kind of, beats you with his size, go up and get it. We've seen all the crazy contested catches Mike Williams has made over his career. So, two receivers that kind of give you the best of both worlds. If you have Aaron Rodgers, if he can come back and play at, a high level like we've seen him play at before, which will be questionable off that Achilles injury, especially for a quarterback that likes to move around a bit, not, run around, but in the pocket, move around, kind of play make. I think he fits perfectly. Alan Lazard wasn't really able to do that. He brought him over. You kind of saw how that went. Mike Williams is literally just a better version of Alan Lazard in terms of what you want them to do. So if they both can stay healthy, I definitely like this signing for the Jets.
Yeah, Derrick Henry to the Ravens. I mean, I'm not commenting on this at all. I'm gonna wait for the games. I don't know if you got something you want to say about that one, but
we didn't talk about this one already.
No, I think Derrick Henry was. I think it was this week, or like
right after.
Well, yeah, maybe like Wednesday, Thursday.
I mean, I like it, man. You look at that backfield, Derrick Henry. I think it's only a 2-year deal too, so you're not, heavily invested long term with Derrick Henry at that running back position. So, I mean, it's Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, bro. Like, what more can I say? Like, it's a crazy backfield. Like, I think the names speak for themselves, bro.
You got any more free agents you want to talk about?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, the only other noticeable one or big one is Chase Young to the Saints.
Oh yeah, Chase Young to the Saints, having neck surgery.
Yeah, he'll be out until the start of the season. But that's pretty much it. Yeah.
All right, man. NBA talk, man. I got a quick little segment. Playoff or play-in, man. Some borderline teams right now. That front end of the play-in tournament, between the 6-5 seeds in both the East and West, a little bit closer than that back end, 10, 11, 12 teams getting towards the play-in. So those teams that are, they're already in the play-in right now, they're trying to get out of the play-in, trying to get to the playoffs. So I got 2 teams in the West, 2 teams in the East. So you're going to tell me if you think they're making the playoffs or they're going to be in the play-in. All
right, what if I think they just miss altogether?
If you think they entirely fall out, man, go ahead and just let me know, man.
All
say
start with the East.
Lottery. Go ahead, playoff, play-in, or lottery. Like, you tell me what they'll be doing. You want to start with the East?
Yeah.
So I got the Indiana Pacers in the East.
All right. Well, looking at the Pacers are tough. Looking at the teams right now, I'm gonna say playoffs for the Pacers. And that's only because they're one loss behind a team that I think can fall, which is the 76ers. No Joel, although we did see Maxey kind of, put the team on his back. What was that, last night, a couple nights ago against the Heat? He had a really good performance. I think he had 30 or something like that. But I like this Pacers team, man. We haven't talked about it, but we've discussed and kind of the way the Pacers have played is they're a fast team, man. They like to get out on breaks. And they have a bunch of athletes. Now, the main thing with the Pacers is Halliburton. Like, he's fallen off a cliff basically ever since All-Star break. And I think the main thing with that is he's just not healthy. And they're trying to do this weird play him, make sure he plays enough games so he can, try to make one of the All-NBA teams. Because in the beginning of the season when he was fully healthy and Halliburton was rolling, he was putting up great numbers. He was looking like,
MVP candidate,
best pure point guard in the league, averaging, crazy amount of assists, shooting the ball efficiently, where all of that has kind of dropped now. And I definitely think it's because he was banged up. I believe it was a hamstring, and a hamstring, if you're an athlete or if you've ever had this injury, that's one of those things where it's like, you can't really do anything but rest is the best, is the only way it's going to get better. And with them having the 65 game, qualifier to make the All-NBA
any
teams,
award,
I definitely think he kind of rushed it back and kind of, pushed to get that All-NBA, because when at first where he was playing, he was, All-NBA lock, whether it be first, second, wherever you want to put him. He definitely was playing good enough to make All-NBA, but I think he's definitely hindered that now, trying to come back, rushed a little too early, not looking, like himself, going in and out of the locker rooms. I think he, went to the locker room last game. So whether it's that or the addition of Pascal Siakam, he's just not the same player anymore. So hopefully at this point he kind of just chalks it up, forgets about the All-NBA. If we can see Halliburton get back to where he was playing, that super fast, pushing the ball, pushing the tempo, getting out on break, finding those playmakers, I definitely think this Pacers team can at least jump the 76ers, who I've seen, the report just came out that Embiid is back at the facility, that he might be, he's looking to aim back for the playoffs to come back. And I understand all of that, but outside of Tyrese Maxey, that Philadelphia 76ers team just literally has, nothing. It's bad. Tobias Harris not looking like he was early on this season or early in his career, playing off of Joel Embiid. I mean, after that, you got Kelly Oubre, Nicholas Batum, Paul Reed, all of these guys who can be solid role players, but you don't want them to be your number two. And right now, it's Tyrese Maxey,
Buddy Hield.
Yeah, Buddy Hield, who came over, and at this point, Buddy Hield, what is he?
He's probably the best player on the team outside of Maxey right now.
Yeah, and that's not saying much. If you're looking to be a team that's competing and contending, Buddy Hield should be your fourth or fifth best player, not your second.
He's a shooter. He's a scorer.
Yeah, so outside of Tyrese Maxey, not much else there. Whereas the Pacers, if Halliburton can get back right, I like McConnell for them coming off of the bench. Mentioned trade for Siakam, add some side, add some length to that team. I like what the Pacers can be potentially. I don't think anything will happen major for them this year, but I definitely think they can sneak into the back end of that playoffs, jump to 76ers. 76ers drop a couple games. I think it just comes down to them being better than the Sixers. Not how good the Pacers can be, it's how bad the Sixers are, or not how bad, but how closer they are to the Sixers. One game ahead of them, only a loss behind. So I definitely can see them jumping the Sixers, who the 6 seed right now, and sneaking into the playoffs.
Well, I guess that gives me the second answer, because my next team playoff or play in, Miami Heat.
The Miami Heat. I'm gonna say play in for the Heat, man. Only because you just never know which Heat team you're getting on a night-to-night basis. If you were to tell me everyone's fully healthy, the rotation, we're not getting minutes from guys that are on 10-day contracts and they're signing, Patty Mills isn't playing 20-plus minutes, then, yeah, this Heat team is going to be up there with the Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, Cleveland Cavaliers, but you never know when Jimmy's playing. Tyler Hero, when is he coming back? Duncan Robinson just went out. Jaime Jaquez, he's a really nice rookie, but he's still a rookie. Still has, his woes at times. Not the most efficient scorer of the basketball. So I just think Caleb Martin, he comes in.
Spark plug.
Exactly, but that's really, you're not looking for him to be, a bona fide star on your team. You want him to come in.
Not that Eastern Conference Finals, Caleb Martin.
Well, yeah, that's. He's outside of that, we haven't seen anything else from him. But
I'm saying you haven't seen that. That's not the type of player he truly is.
No, you want him to be someone come in, play really good defense, shoot the ball efficiently. You don't want him to have to reach that level, because you you got guys like Bam and Jimmy, but
Stretch five, Bam looking nice.
yeah. Game winner against the Detroit Pistons, and then hitting those corner threes.
Hit that corner three last night.
Yeah.
Still
But
lost.
I think the Heat are going to be very similar to what they were last season at this point. Jimmy's going to have to turn up. Bam's going to have to step up. Hero, hopefully, if he's healthy. We didn't even mention Rozier, who's kind of been in the slump so far. If he gets his scoring back up, this Heat team can definitely be dangerous. And I think talent-wise and the way their roster is constructed now, they should be a playoff lock. But with all the question marks and everything going on, I'm going to say they're playing. Now, they get their act together like they did last season, we can see them go on another run. I think they're capable. They have the coaching. They have the players. We all know Jimmy, Bam, who looks to be, one of the best defenders, look pretty good against Jokic that other game where they played the Nuggets. Now, is the
He
different
really
Nuggets
wasn't
and
touching
Jokic.
the rock, right?
Yeah, but, he's going to give 100% effort.
Yeah.
As good as you're going to get in terms of guarding Nikola Jokic, I think Bam does a solid job. So I like what Bam does. He's able to turn up in the playoffs as well. That intensity, everyone goes up a notch. So if the Heat can pull it together, I think they can go on a similar run. But for right now and for what this team is, I think they're playing.
14 games left for the Heat, 13 left for the Pacers at this point through the season. And Hero's health, Rozier against the Pistons, man, I think it was the third quarter of maybe the first game because they played 2 games in a row between the Pistons and the Heat in terms of the Heat standpoint. Rozier in that third quarter, he got real hot, and then he kind of just stopped giving him the rock and went to other things. And when a scorer like Rozier gets it going, man, that's when you really feed him. You feed into his streakiness as a scorer because he's such a crafty finisher. If he's able to knock down the J and get to the rack, he could finish with the best of them at the rim. So for Rozier, I feel like he's starting to get that footing down, and Bam shooting the 3 ball. I like what I'm seeing, but still want to see Bam be more consistent because there was a period he went 1 for 9 against that Nuggets game. Yeah, you mentioned he had a decent game. That game was in the Heat's grasp, and they just let it slip away. Like early in the fourth quarter, they just seem like they just stopped scoring. And if it's not Duncan coming off an off ball or a handoff from Bam or Hami or whoever it is on the court, it's tough for that team. And if it's not Rozier, ISO, crafty finish, they just need to get some structure in that offense. And you mentioned it's hard when you got Jimmy who's out, Hero who's been out for a while now. You're throwing in, Caleb Martin. Is he starting today or not? Duncan's out there. Is it Hami today? It's tough for the Heat, but get them back healthy. We'll see. I agree with your take. Right now they are looking like a play-in team, especially after last night against the Sixers. And probably a game that they really should have won, and they could really use in that terms of the East standings.
Mm-hmm.
Moving it to the West now, man. I got a team that's kind of up there in the Western Conference standings that I know you aren't really a believer with. So I'm going to skip the 6-seeded Kings. Going in at number 5 seed, New Orleans Pelicans. Playoff or play in?
Now, the West is a lot tougher because you can look at a team like – you can look all the way up to the Clippers at, the 4 seed and –
They got a chance.
Yeah, from the Clippers who have 42 wins all the way down to, the Phoenix Suns at 8 who have 39. Like, it's not many games, or even the Lakers who have 37 wins. Not many games in between them. So, I get you skipping, the 6th seed. I understand. But I'm going to say the Pelicans hold on and make the playoffs. This last little stretch, they've been playing some really good basketball. Zion is finally on the court, playing, scoring. He's looking really well. We all know the stories with Zion, the reports coming out. He's dropped 25 pounds since the play-in tournament. If that's true, I'm not sure, he's on the scale every day and reporters are tracking his weight and stuff like that. But regardless, he seems to be healthy now. He's on the court. He's been playing consistent basketball for a while now. So in terms of Zion just being on the court, that's huge for him. And then guys are stepping up. Trey Murphy coming off of that injury. He's been shooting the ball really well as of late. And when you have Zion, kind of those guys that big bruisers down in the paint. And with Zion's playmaking ability, he's a solid passer. The kick out to guys like, Brandon Ingram, who can shoot the ball, the Trey Murphys, the Herb Jones if he's open, these guys that can knock down the shot. I just think, the Pelicans are one of those teams that they're super long. They play really tough on defense, and they can beat you up in the paint. Guys catch heat. CJ McCollum, if he's healthy, he can shoot the ball. He can handle a little bit as well. Alvarado, if he's there, adds a little defense and stuff too as well. So I think the Pelicans can do enough to hold on. The Mavericks and the Kings are, right behind them. But at that 5 seed, I think the Pelicans do hold on. I think they're playing well enough to where, not fall down, but they could shoot. Even like I mentioned, they can jump the Clippers and reach that 4 seed. So it's going to be tough right now. All these teams playing playoffs, they're all right next to each other. But I like the way the Pelicans are playing right now defensively. They're one of those teams, night in and night out. They may not have, the superstar, the bona fide, elite scorer, but they got guys that can contribute from all 3 levels of the court, and they're going to play hard. They're going to play tough-nosed defense. They got guys that can guard. They got wings that are long. They can interfere with the shots, jump those passing lanes. So as a fun, scrappy, kind of just more of like a, March Madness coming up, they were like kind of built like a college basketball team. They play the right way, don't really play through one person, although they do have Zion and Brandon Ingram and even CJ McCollum at times who can take over the games offensively due to their talent. I think the Pelicans are playing solid as a unit right now and just making the right play. So I think they hold on to that, 5-6 range. They make the playoffs.
All right.
Maybe first team out.
Okay. We're going to skip the Mavericks for this week. Coming off that Kyrie crazy game winner a couple days ago, same day Bam hit his 3 crazy one-hand floater lefty. We all saw it. But I'm going to go ahead and go down a team who's tied with the Mavericks. I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns, playoff or play-in.
This is like one of the toughest ones because, you can go to, I think, last week with the Suns and they beat Denver in overtime. Bradley Beal, without Devin Booker, Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, hitting big shot after big shot. And then you can go to yesterday, a couple of days ago, to where they're losing to Milwaukee without Giannis, which is just insane. Bobby Porter's masterclass.
And to get like a 30 ball or something.
And Dame had a good game as well. That kind of led him to the victory against Phoenix Suns. So, I mean, I can honestly, I don't want to say miss the play-in, but if you told me the Phoenix Suns just absolutely crumbled, Bradley Beal, pulled something, they shut him down the rest of the season, Devin Booker's not fully right, and Kevin Durant can't get on track, and you're like, the Suns they missed the play-in, I can see that, and then you can say, yeah, all 3 guys are fully healthy, they're all locked in, all 3 of those guys are playing at an all-NBA level like they have before, and they're one of the best teams in the league, not just the West. I can see it, but I think you got to meet somewhere in the middle right now with the Phoenix Suns and just say play in. Against the better teams, it's weird because, they lose to Boston, who were one game KD played them really well, was out scoring, and then they played them again right after, didn't have the best performance. Then, like I mentioned, they beat the Nuggets in overtime. Kevin Durant's coming down, hitting big threes. Bradley Beal getting to his spots in the wing. And then they lose to the Bucks without Giannis, and Bobby Portis and Dame are leaving the way. So it's tough, man. I think it comes down to that big 3, and we're kind of out of the big 3 era of basketball right now, which is weird. But it kind of feels like the Phoenix Suns are holding on, trying to be, the last team that gets the most out of the big 3, so to speak. Whereas now you're seeing more of a team ball, more of a, one superstar and a lot of elevated players around them. So with the Suns, Devin Booker's going to have to get back healthy. I know everyone talks about not having a true point guard. I think Devin Booker can play point for them just as well. And then Kevin Durant, he's going to have to be more consistent. As of late, he's been, in a little slump, but he's had a really, really solid season. He's been super efficient. So if Kevin Durant can get back to that, elite scoring level, I think they'll be good. And then Bradley Beal, at this point, whatever he provides is just a plus because you can't really rely on him. This big 3, they haven't been healthy, haven't played many games together. So Hopefully they can kind of, fix things up, get them going more towards the end of the year. Nurkic, he was like playing really good, had a bunch of rebounds, but then against that Boston series, they kind of just exploited him and showed like, yeah, you've been having a solid, couple games, been grabbing a bunch of boards, but when you get him in that pick and roll, when you switch him, when you got, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, all those guys that can switch, that can handle the ball, Drew Holiday, that can just go and attack him, kind of shows that, it's Yusuf Nurkic. We kind of know what he is at this point. So the Phoenix Suns, I think, definitely have, a super, super high ceiling because at any given night, any three of those guys can go off and give you, 30. But also, like, if they're all not playing together, if they're all not on the same page, they can lose to the Bucks without Giannis. So I'm going to say the Suns right now are a comfortable playing team with some upside.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, for them to miss the play in this scenario, man, it'd have to be the Rockets at this point. They're up 6.5 games on them. So you got to take into account, the Rockets aren't winning every basketball game. So they have to lose at least 11 of their next, what is it, 20 games they got left or less than that now.
It'd be 14. Yeah, so they're playing lock. Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Like, they're so inconsistent. That team, they could
maybe
be the hottest or the
plan,
coldest.
I could see, like, drop to the 10 seed.
Yeah, 100%. You got the Warriors. You know how Curry could just heat up any moment. You got the Lakers, the Suns, the Mavericks right now currently in that West playing. And people were joking around it might be more watched than the NBA Finals when you got.
Or maybe they, lose that playing game and the first team out. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, you got that West playing right now. If it ended today, I wouldn't mind it, man. You got Luka, Kyrie over there cooking in Dallas lately. You got the big three who's either hot or cold. You got the Lakers, Bron, AD, and company. You got Warriors who, started the season off real slow, kind of found some footing, see if they could stick it together at this point. And then in the East, I mean, you got, the Pacers, Heat, Bulls, Hawks. Kind of like the same makeup of last year's playing. Very similar, at least with the Heat, Bulls, and I believe the Hawks were a playing team.
I think the Raptors were the other team.
As well. I think the Raptors were the other team in last year's playing. So kind of similar in the East. We'll see, man. Hopefully the Heat can get out of the shackles of the play-in, get to the playoffs, and save some juice. But we'll see. Got any other NBA? Oh, I mean, Ant-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, with the huge
talk about that. But,
dunk of the year.
Yeah, him and Jalen Johnson both crazy, bro. Those dunks were insane.
Nah, that was another level, man. And shout out Ant. I love Ant's personality, man.
We've been showing love to Ant on the podcast,
man. We have ever since his social media days. Doesn't put the phone away, man. But Ant, just keep being you, right? It's fun to watch Ant in the league, and it kind of got me missing, Ja Morant over there in Memphis, the other athletic guard play that always, brings a little different side. But yeah, regardless, man, Ant hooping, I mean, having the best year of his career, leading that Timberwolves team to an amazing record that I didn't think we'd be sitting here come March talking about, not Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves sitting at the playoffs right here as a top 3 seed in the West, and they're competing neck and neck with the Nuggets. And I mean, you got the Thunder who are kind of in that same boat as, the Timberwolves and being that shocker, but they're both dominating the West right now.
Yeah, the top of the West in terms of, Denver, Minnesota, and OKC. You touched on Minnesota Timberwolves. You told me they were a 50-win team before the season. I think that's, one of the biggest shockers. OKC, you could see it. SGA had a really good year last year. You bring Shed in for his, fully healthy rookie season, second year in the league. J-Dub, Jalen Williams, he takes another step. Like, you can see the OKC Thunder being a really good regular season
one
team.
seed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's tough, but you could see them being a really good, regular season team. Timberwolves, on the other hand, like this kind of not came out of nowhere, but it was
comes
like
down
a
to
lot of question marks. Yeah, and it definitely comes down to Ant because when they had Ant and Cat, you saw how they were playing. Cat goes out. Now they just have Ant and they're still rolling. They're still winning games. So yeah, this Timberwolves team, they at this point is as far as Ant takes them, like really the sky's the limit, man. Like
Yeah.
they could go all the way if Ant continues to play at a super super elite level. But I just think it's gonna be tough to knock off the Nuggets, man. And the way Jokic and Jamal Murray and that team plays, like Jokic is just a different beast in himself.
Yeah. I mean, I was at that Heat Nuggets game last Wednesday. Michael Porter Jr. decided to have a field day on the Heat. I'm seeing Christian Braun hitting a couple of layups on the Heat. Gives me PTSD thinking back to that final is where, you got Braun hooping. You had what's his name? Who left?
Bruce Brown.
Bruce Brown. Yeah, I kept wanting to say Kwame Brown. Bruce Brown hooping. He went out and got a contract. So it's gonna be which role player this year, kind of for the Nuggets. Michael Porter, obviously one of the streakiest shooters in the league. He's gonna pull it anytime he gets the rock. Regardless, should be interesting. Less than a month away from that play-in tournament. Under 20 games left in the season. It should be interesting. Playoff basketball heating up. Getting closer to, once camp starts rolling around in a couple months for the NFL, to these free agents getting them new uniforms as well. Draft coming up next month as well for the NFL. I don't think there's a question with who the Bears are taking at this point. But you did say we still got to see. Regardless, man, any last comments, anything?
No, he pretty much covered everything, basketball and football related.
Yes, sir. So that's going to wrap up episode 82 Go to Go Pod on TikTok, man. Go to Go YouTube, Apple, Spotify, streams, all that. And until next week, man, peace.